The cinematic landscape for Spider-Man stands at a pivotal juncture. Following the emotionally charged multiversal chaos of Spider-Man: No Way Home, the MCU's friendly neighborhood hero finds himself in an unprecedented state of isolation. The world has forgotten Peter Parker. This profound narrative reset positions the character for a truly unique direction, one that mirrors a significant and transformative era from the comic books: Brand New Day. In the comics, Brand New Day emerged in 2008, directly following the controversial One More Day storyline. This period fundamentally altered Spider-Man's status quo, with his marriage to Mary Jane Watson erased and, crucially, his secret identity forgotten by everyone, including those who knew it for his public unmasking during Civil War. This comic book arc was a deliberate effort to bring him back to basics as Spider-Man. The MCU's No Way Home ending, where a global memory wipe causes the world to forget Peter Parker, serves as an organic, in-universe equivalent to this comic book premise, setting the stage for a similar Brand New Day for Tom Holland's iteration. This upcoming phase for Spider-Man presents a compelling opportunity for the MCU. The narrative shift in No Way Home provides a seamless and internally consistent adaptation of the Brand New Day premise. Unlike the comic's magical pact with Mephisto, the MCU leverages an established magical event, making the film's foundational shift feel earned. This allows for a strong, justifiable basis for Peter's renewed isolation and his return to street-level heroism. Furthermore, this direction aligns with a deliberate creative imperative to bring Spider-Man back to basics. Kevin Feige has stated that this new era for Holland's Spider-Man will focus on him being a proper Spider-Man, him being by himself, dedicated to saving the city and dealing with, for lack of better terms, street-level crime, as opposed to world-ending events. This is more than just a plot device. It is a profound artistic choice to strip Peter of his high-tech Stark suits and his established network of allies. The underlying purpose is to explore Peter's inherent heroism, which compels him to help and make a difference, regardless of his powers. This approach emphasizes the everyman aspect of Spider-Man, making his struggles more relatable and his eventual triumphs deeply personal, thereby reinforcing the purest form of the "with great power comes great responsibility" mantra. Adding to the intrigue, the confirmed cast for this film includes Hulk, Punisher, and Scorpion. This is not a typical superhero ensemble. It's a volatile mix of immense power, uncompromising ideology, and brutal street-level realities, promising a unique and challenging dynamic for Peter Parker. In this Brand New Day scenario, the narrative opens with Peter Parker navigating a profoundly altered existence. He lives alone in a small, likely rundown apartment in New York City, a stark contrast to his previous life. Financially struggling, he works various odd jobs, embodying the classic everyman Peter Parker archetype and his perennial financial woes. His Spider-Man activities are now conducted without public recognition or the support network he once enjoyed. His web shooters are mechanical, a visual callback to his early comic book days, and a symbol of his newfound self-reliance. A significant element of Peter's civilian life, the Daily Bugle, is also in disarray. J. Jonah Jameson, still reeling from the events of No Way Home and potentially a heart attack, as in the comics, has lost control of his beloved newspaper. Dexter Bennett, a shrewd and sensationalist celebrity businessman, has acquired the Bugle, rebranding it as the DB, and pushing an even more aggressive, anti-Spider-Man agenda. This shift makes Peter's previous role as a freelance photographer for the Bugle untenable, further isolating him professionally. The transformation of the Bugle under Bennett is not merely a plot point concerning Peter's employment. It symbolizes the ongoing dismantling of his familiar world and the loss of a crucial anchor in his civilian identity. This professional isolation deepens his personal loneliness, emphasizing the challenge of building a new life from scratch. Into this vulnerable landscape steps Mac Gargan, the Scorpion. Gargan is introduced as a bitter, down-on-his-luck private investigator with a history of being hired by J. Jonah Jameson to expose Spider-Man. His past failures and deep-seated resentment fuel his desperation. Driven by a desire for wealth, fame, or a twisted sense of heroism, Gargan willingly undergoes a dangerous, barely tested procedure. This transformation, perhaps funded by a shadowy benefactor, turns him into the Scorpion, granting him superhuman strength, durability, and a formidable mechanical tail. The mutagenic treatment, however, severely impacts Gargan's mind, driving him to insanity and imbuing him with predatory instincts. This fuels a deep personal vendetta against both Spider-Man and, crucially, J. Jonah Jameson, whom he blames for his monstrous transformation. Scorpion serves as a profound thematic mirror to Peter Parker. As described, Gargan is an anti-Peter Parker, initially selfish and desiring wealth and fame, only to be ruined by an experiment that was meant to fulfill his dreams but instead made him a monster. This stands in stark contrast to Peter's own origin, where an accidental acquisition of powers and a tragic consequence of his early selfishness forced him to embrace responsibility and become a hero. Scorpion's descent into madness and his state of being trapped in the suit can symbolize the destructive consequences of power wielded without responsibility or a moral compass. His vendetta against Jameson also directly intertwines with Peter's civilian struggles, making the threat deeply personal and immediate. Scorpion makes a brutal and chaotic debut, directly targeting Jameson or his new Daily Bugle assets. Spider-Man intervenes, immediately facing a physically superior and unhinged opponent. This initial confrontation vividly highlights Peter's renewed vulnerability and the challenges of fighting a powerful foe without his previous resources or public support. The arrival of other confirmed characters, Hulk and Punisher, further complicates Peter's brand new day. Bruce Banner enters the narrative, perhaps in his Joe Fixit persona, a more cunning and self-aware version of the Hulk who operates in the shadows, possibly as a mob enforcer, or simply trying to live a quiet, anonymous life in New York. While more intelligent than the Savage Hulk, this persona is still prone to anger-fueled transformations and immense destruction. His motivations could be to avoid detection, seek a cure, or simply to survive, but circumstances, such as Scorpion's escalating chaos or a shared threat, inevitably force him into the open. Comics confirm a history of Spider-Man and Hulk, specifically Joe Fixit interactions, often beginning with conflict but leading to uneasy team-ups, with Peter having a unique ability to calm the Hulk. Frank Castle, the Punisher, is also actively engaged in his never-ending war against crime, operating entirely outside the formal justice system. His methods are brutal, uncompromising, and lethal, driven by a pure, clear, and simple motive: punishing the guilty and protecting the innocent where the law has failed. He becomes aware of Scorpion's rampage and the collateral damage, viewing him as a criminal deserving of death. His path inevitably crosses Spider-Man's, who is attempting to apprehend Scorpion without lethal force. An initial clash is inevitable, as Punisher sees Spider-Man's restraint as weakness or even complicity, believing that Spider-Man isn't doing what's necessary. Kevin Feige's comments confirm that Punisher will bring a different tonality to Holland's Spider-Man, focusing on street-level crime. The escalating actions of Scorpion draw the attention of both Hulk and Punisher, leading to a chaotic, multi-sided confrontation. Spider-Man attempts to de-escalate the situation, protect civilians, and apprehend Scorpion. Simultaneously, Punisher aims for a lethal takedown of Scorpion, and Hulk's unpredictable presence adds an element of overwhelming destruction. This initial conflict could be fueled by a misunderstanding, perhaps Scorpion manipulating Hulk, or Punisher misinterpreting Spider-Man's non-lethal methods as ineffective. The inclusion of Punisher presents a profound moral threat to Peter. Punisher's rigid eye-for-an-eye philosophy and his willingness to use lethal force against the guilty stand in direct opposition to Spider-Man's strong moral code, which centers on a no-kill rule and responsibility over retribution. This is not merely a physical conflict, it is a profound philosophical one. Punisher forces Peter to confront the practical limitations and ethical dilemmas of his own moral code in a world where the formal justice system often fails. This dynamic allows the film to explore the complexities of vigilantism and different interpretations of justice, transforming the narrative into a deeper exploration of heroism. Hulk's presence further acts as a catalyst for unforeseen alliances and an exploration of internal conflict. His history with Spider-Man, often starting with conflict but evolving into uneasy team-ups, is a clear precedent. Hulk's immense, unpredictable power forces Spider-Man and Punisher, despite their ideological differences, to potentially unite against an overwhelming common threat. More subtly, Hulk's constant internal struggle between the rational Bruce Banner and his monstrous, anger-driven alter ego directly mirrors Peter's own internal battle with the overwhelming nature of his powers and the profound loneliness of his secret identity in this brand new day reality. This allows for a character-driven exploration of themes like internal control, the monster within, and the burden of power, without needing a literal symbiote. Hulk's rampages could inadvertently push Peter to question his own limits of control and responsibility. As the narrative progresses, Scorpion's vendetta intensifies, potentially leading to a direct, brutal assault on J. Jonah Jameson or a major public target connected to the Daily Bugle. This forces Peter into a high-stakes situation where his choices have immediate, severe consequences. The core moral dilemma for Spider-Man comes to the forefront. He must decide whether to strictly adhere to his no-kill rule, even if it means Punisher might succeed in killing Scorpion, or if he must actively prevent Punisher's lethal methods, potentially at the cost of allowing Scorpion to escape or cause further harm. This directly mirrors classic ethical dilemmas in comics, such as Superman's dilemma, where a hero must choose between a harmful action and an omission that could lead to greater harm. Punisher's perspective is unwavering. He views Spider-Man's restraint as a critical weakness or even complicity, firmly believing that the law can't touch them and that only lethal force can truly punish the guilty. This puts Peter in the difficult position of confronting not just Punisher's actions, but the implications of his own adherence to his moral code. Hulk's involvement continues to complicate the narrative. He might be initially manipulated by a hidden force, such as Mr. Negative, a villain hinted at for Brand New Day, or simply reacting to the escalating chaos. Spider-Man's unique ability to calm him becomes increasingly crucial, allowing for moments of temporary, uneasy alliance against the common threat. The dynamic between the three characters becomes a complex dance. Spider-Man attempts to manage both Hulk's immense destructive potential and Punisher's lethal intent, all while still trying to contain and apprehend Scorpion. Without his previous extensive support system, Mary Jane, Aunt May, Ned, the Avengers, Peter is truly alone in bearing the immense burden of great power, great responsibility. This film becomes a crucible, testing his resolve and forcing him to define what kind of hero he is in this new, isolated reality. Frank Castle's rigid moral code and brutal efficiency serve as a constant foil, highlighting Peter's more flexible, compassionate approach, but also forcing Peter to confront how his methods might be perceived as ineffective or naive by others. Bruce Banner's struggle for control over the Hulk can serve as a powerful, unspoken parallel to Peter's own internal battle with the overwhelming nature of his powers and the profound loneliness of maintaining a secret identity when no one remembers him. This isolation is not merely a plot device. It's a profound character challenge that forces Peter to redefine what responsibility means when it rests solely on his shoulders. He must find new connections and redefine his heroism, potentially paving the way for the introduction of new supporting characters like Carly Cooper to fill the void and help him rebuild his personal life. The narrative culminates in a high-stakes showdown at a significant New York landmark or during a major public event. Scorpion, in a final, desperate, and highly destructive play, targets J. Jonah Jameson directly in a public setting, or attempts to cause mass chaos that draws all three confirmed characters into a single, intense arena. This climax is designed to be a chaotic, multi-sided confrontation, rather than a clean team-up. Visually, the scene is a maelstrom. Spider-Man frantically tries to contain the collateral damage and protect civilians, using his agility and web-slinging to navigate the chaos. Punisher systematically attempts to lethally neutralize Scorpion, and potentially Hulk if he's perceived as an uncontrolled threat, demonstrating his brutal efficiency. Hulk unleashes raw, unpredictable power, adding to the immense destruction. This grounded, street-level climax reinforces the back-to-basics theme of Brand New Day. It emphasizes that heroism isn't solely about saving the universe, but about the deeply personal act of protecting the people and places directly around you, making Peter's struggles more resonant. Spider-Man ultimately defeats Scorpion, perhaps by exploiting his mental instability, the flaws in his suit, or by using his intellect and agility to outmaneuver him. Crucially, Peter achieves this without killing him, reaffirming his core moral code despite the intense pressure and lethal example set by Punisher. Punisher, seeing his target apprehended but not killed, might disappear into the shadows, leaving Peter with a lingering sense of unease and the unresolved moral conflict between their methods. This open-ended moral question is a powerful narrative hook for future street-level MCU stories, allowing for continued exploration of vigilantism and accountability. Hulk, having served his purpose or having been calmed by Spider-Man's unique influence, retreats, reinforcing his status as a powerful, often misunderstood force in the Marvel Universe and leaving open the possibility for future interactions. The immediate physical threat is resolved, but the fundamental ideological clash between Spider-Man and Punisher remains, providing a rich foundation for future narrative exploration.